And just everything's weird, man. Like, I think people are allowing for the fact that everything's just kind of weird right now.
Yeah.
Like, this feels super weird. Just doing the podcast like this is bizarre.
Yeah. Are you at your home in DC?
Yeah, I'm at home in DC. You are in, what's the name of your town? I could never remember the name.
Westminster?
God, I can't even say that.
Yeah, I mean, I usually I never really tell people where in which city exactly I live. I always say oh, I live somewhere in between Ghent and Antwerp.
Right. It looks nice though, just from the little, I can see some exposed beams there.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's my parents' house, so.
This is the house you grew up in?
Yeah, well, partly I moved here when I think I was around 13, 14, but they've been renovating it since I was probably 13, 14, and they're still renovating it. They built this whole new part to the house. But my sister just left the house and I've basically been touring constantly.
Right.
Just about to move to the States actually, and then all this Corona stuff happened, so.
Dude, I mean, yeah. First of all, man, how are you? How you doing? How's the family? How's everything?
I mean, I'm pretty good. I mean, before this, I didn't see my parents for a really long time, and I wanted to come home and kind of take a break to make some music anyways.
Right.
So for me, despite not being able to see Agnes and stuff, the timing was actually pretty convenient for me, but it's been pretty good. The only thing I have now is, how long is everything gonna last? Am I gonna be here for 6 months, a year?
It's wild, man. I mean, so what's the situation in Belgium? Because I think in the States we get so focused on what's happening here, it's hard to keep up with every other country. So what's it like out there?
It's actually pretty good in Belgium. Relatively. I mean, there's still, there's people dying and shit, so that's not good.
Yeah.
But in comparison to some other countries, it's pretty good. I feel over here when everything got pretty bad in Italy, over here they were okay, let's push the brakes. What the fuck's going on? And shortly after, basically I was supposed to play Rampage here. And that got canceled. And around that time, I was still kind of oh, wow, they're actually, canceling this because of the virus. I thought it wasn't that serious and all that stuff. And then about 2 days later, everything was getting canceled. And then I think a week later, everything was in lockdown. And this was I think this was a couple of weeks before the US even started talking about doing lockdowns, So there was a big gap. But because they took it seriously so quickly, I feel we kind of got it under control over here. You can kind of see right now, us and some of the surrounding countries were all taking it really seriously. And then, for instance, the UK and the Netherlands, they were all oh, we're gonna do this herd immunity thing, and they're kind of fucked now. I feel bad for the guy. I don't wish ill upon anybody.
Yeah.
But this guy from the UK, Boris Johnson, was saying literally on TV, he was oh, some of you will die, but he was just kind of whatever, that's just gonna happen. And then he became fucking sick. I was
right. He's the highest profile person who got it real bad. Yeah. It's so wild, man.
Yeah.
And it happens so fast too. Because when you were talking about, oh, Rampage got canceled, doesn't that seem so long ago now?
Yeah. And it's only been 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago. Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy. And now, of course, you're starting to see people talking about, wanting to open things back up. And I don't know, even in our world, I'm seeing people, posting rescheduled tour dates. and all that kind of thing. And I mean, I hope it works out, and I understand, of course, everybody's got to work and it's good to have something to look forward to. But I'm like, man, posting rescheduled tour dates right now seems very optimistic to me.
Yeah, it's like, I think some people, I mean, same thing. Like, if for some reason everything in 2 months is all cleared out, like, good, like, I'd be very happy. But like, realistically, like, I don't really think people think about the effects this is gonna have on travel. There is not a single bone in my body that believes that in like 3 or 4 months I'm gonna be allowed to just fly to the US on a commercial flight.
Right. Yeah, because they're doing all kinds of quarantine things. I mean, our borders aren't totally shut down, although some countries have done that.
Mhm.
And yeah, and even just thinking about like personally, like, would you want to get on a plane right now? I can't even think about it.
Nah, fuck that. No, I'll just stay here for a bit. But yeah, it's pretty nuts. I've been having the same thing. Like, there's people hitting up my management about rescheduled shows and shit in like August.
Right.
But, like, even before that, and it's just, yeah, I don't know.
It's optimistic. I mean, God bless them. Like, I hope it works out. But yeah, it's hard to imagine, man. And it's got to be, how's your mood in general? Like, because I think a lot of people, myself included, like, a lot of anxiety is wrapped up in this. Obviously, we're all taking a financial hit to a certain extent. But yeah, man, I don't know. I always think of you as a pretty optimistic dude. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny, but actually, before all of this, when everything was in full motion, I was super stressed out all the time.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of, like, now that no one's really able to do much, I'm actually pretty stress free. Like, I think the only bad thing is my sleeping schedule is completely fucked. Like, I can't go to sleep before 6 a.m. and stuff like that.
Man.
It's really, really bad. Yeah.
So you're just waking up right now.
What was that?
You're just waking up right now?
No, I mean, it's like 9 p.m. over here now. But like,
yeah, no, I'm just giving you shit.
I like usually get in bed around 1 a.m. or something, and I just lay there until like 6.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But apart from that, it's kind of nice because I've just been able to like take some time off and just like, every day I wake up and I open up my laptop, just make some music, which I haven't been able to do in a long time. So I'm just making a stupid amount of music, which is like actually taking some of the stress off, because I think that's what was stressing me out, just like being on the road all the time, just not being able to make anything for months on end, and constantly having, like management and stuff like, yo, like did you finish this? Like, we got a collab with like this guy and blah 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 blah.
It's funny,
so that's
man.
been nice.
It's really funny because the last time I was sort of listening back to the last time you were on the show, which was like almost 2 years ago now, and right around that time was sort of like the end of that podcast was when you announced that you had the DJ Snake collab.
Yeah.
And it was this, it's just funny to hear you talk about sort of being on the other side of what I think has been a pretty eventful couple of years in your career. Because, we've gotten to know each other a little more in that time too. And we've talked about how, you switched up a lot of things on the business side of what you were doing. You kind of had this artistic revival. But it's funny to hear you talk about now it's like almost too busy,
Yeah, I'm kind of weird when it comes to that stuff. Because when I wasn't able to do this stuff, I was always like, oh, I want to be able to like make a song with this guy or like this DJ. And the thing I found out about like the DJ Snake collab is like when like I wanted to work with him for so long, and when he finally like hit me up and he was like, yo, I want to work on something, it almost put so much pressure on me that like I wasn't able to like make a song for a while, just because every song I was making, I was like, okay, like this is not going to be good enough to like send to like DJ Snake and like all this stuff.
Of course.
And like he actually hit me up again to like make another song. And like my first reaction was like, God fucking damn it, like this is just gonna stress me out. But yeah, I'm like trying to come up with something. Like I got like a couple of really big names, like trying to work on something now. I'm kind of like I'm a little more relaxed about it now because my ideology is, you know, because at first you're really scared, like, oh, if I don't send them something within like 2 weeks or something, like they're gonna lose their like attention span and like move on to something else. And then, but I've kind of realized that no matter who it is, like once they offer, like if you just send them something really dope, it can be like 6 months from now. Like there's no way they're going to say no, you know?
Oh, of course. And it's so funny. I think this is true in a lot of different, not even just for musicians, but you get so wrapped up at the idea of a big opportunity or, you know, working with somebody in a powerful position, and you sort of forget to put yourself in their shoes, where to them, they're like, oh, hey, this is cool. You know, and they're not really thinking about it in the same way.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. And if you're able to sort of put yourself in that mindset, at least personally, it makes it so much easier to kind of create on that level.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, let's talk about it a little bit, because I feel like so much has changed for you since the last time you were on the show. Like the last time, I mean, okay, so you were on the show, and then after that, I think you and I were hanging out somewhere and kind of talking about how you had were kind of on the tail end of like a dark period where you weren't sure what you were going to do exactly, or what the future of the project was, or what direction you wanted to take it in. Can you talk a little bit about sort of what brought you out of that?
Well, I'm still not like completely out of it. Like, I think it's just getting older.
Happy birthday, by the way.
What's that?
Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm an old man now.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one because like I've been doing this for so long, and then I don't know, you know, like I've just always been making dubstep, and then all these new kids come along and they have success doing something like completely different, or like or like way heavier. And at like one point I like kind of had this mindset like, oh, like should I try and like do the same thing? And I don't know, just like I like constantly had these like internal like arguments with myself, like on like what to make, pretty much, and like how to approach the project. And I think I worried about it for so long that just like now I just kind of stopped like giving a fuck. Like I do give a fuck about like the project, but I'm just kind of making whatever I want to make and putting it out. And if people like it, you know, they like it. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah, well, and it seems like it's been working for you, man, that kind of approach, because you've been doing bigger and bigger tours. You've been working with big names, like we already mentioned. I mean, and I think the last EP, was your last EP the Flesh and Blood EP on Monster Cat? Yeah, you know, and that to me was maybe the most fully like realized project I've heard from you, as far as like, you know, I felt like there was a story arc and there were a bunch of different sounds, and, you know, it felt like just a cohesive project. I don't know, man. I feel like that not giving a fuck seems to be working out for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if it feels like that or if it feels any better, but
yeah, I mean, I'm still around, so I'm happy. But it's
amen.
I'm glad you say that, because that's kind of the goal. I mean, I think kind of the ultimate goal of this project would be to make a really cohesive like album, like 8 to like 10 tracks or something like that. You know, like for instance, I think a prime example of that is like the new Joyride album.
Oh man, it's so fucking good.
it's so good. Like it generally made me jealous.
I think he made basically everybody feel bad about themselves with that album.
Yeah. You know, I'm not going to start name calling, but it's a lot of people make an album and it's, you know, like it just kind of feels like a big EP with like 12 tracks. Like, does that make sense? You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like, especially people who like are in like the more dubsteppy kind of realm of EDM, like they'll just plop like 10 tracks or something on there and they'll just be like, yo, like I made an album. But to me, like that's not really an album. It's just like, I don't know, like a lot of times it just feels like a collection of like meaningless bangers. Like if you listen to like the Joyride album, like it kind of like it's almost the same as when you listen to like a really good like hip hop album or like whatever. It like has a flow into it. Like it feels like this is kind of gonna contradict like my entire career, but like it kind of feels like real music. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah,
because
I know exactly what you mean. I love that you said that because it's so true, man. Like what we do is such a sort of ephemeral, like in the moment, singles based kind of art, and then. And I don't think one is better or worse than the other. But then when you do see somebody put out this like fully realized project like that, where it's very obvious that, you know, he had a story to tell and he wasn't really worried about if each track was going to get played at the festivals. And it's so, and only he could have made it, you know, like you really get to know him as a person, I feel like, through that album. And there's a perspective and it's not trying to do everything all at once. It just does the one thing really well. It's so, I love that you said the real music thing, man, because I feel that way too so much of the time. Like I'll actually take it one step further. I sort of feel like, and people have disagreed with me before, but it's like, there's a certain level of absurdity to what we do just in general. Like, I think our job is sort of ridiculous. And like just in general, I think it's like I think it's funny that this is our job. And that doesn't mean that I don't love it. I love it more than anything in the world, and it means everything to me. But there's something about it where then when somebody does sort of manage to make a more serious piece of art, that it's a good reminder. It's like, oh yeah, we can kind of do anything with this like sandbox that we're in.
I feel especially in these times where you're sitting at home and like you're like watching every DJ trying to stream and stuff, like it really hits you like, wow, we're really useless, aren't we?
Oh man, that's so true. That's so true. Who was it? Hayden Hero Bust he killed me. He tweeted, man, my lack of a video game system is really hurting my DJ career right now. It's so funny, dude. I mean, because you haven't really been doing the streaming thing, right?
You know, like, again, I've just been contemplating like, oh, like, should I do this? But I see a lot of people doing these like digital sets and stuff. And like no disrespect on anybody, but just from my perspective, it just looks kind of whack. And like I'm not too drawn to that. Like I've been thinking of getting all this camera gear and just starting like a sort of like not streaming but like doing a YouTube show. Because I think if I start streaming, I don't think people are going to be interested of me working on a snare for like 10 hours straight, you know?
You'd be surprised, man. There's somebody trying to hack into your system right now to see that.
But I think if I can film everything and then kind of cut and glue it together into like a nice like 10 or 15 minute like episode where you can still see everything, but it's just like all the bullshit from in between is cut out. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
like
might be
that
an
idea,
idea.
man. And I think you'd be pretty well suited to that because, I mean, you post funny videos. Yeah, I always love seeing your tour recaps and all that. They have a very unique perspective that I think is just kind of your personality. And I feel, am I right that you've been kind of leaning into that more in the last, year or two? I feel like you're just posting like just funny videos off the cuff more than you used to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of do dumb shit all the time. And everyone kept telling me like, yo, you should just put this online. And I have been. And I mean, it's been great for like my Instagram and stuff. So that's kind of why I do it.
I mean, but does it feel natural to you or does it feel like, another thing you have to do, I guess is my question.
Oh no, it's definitely natural because just like, like sometimes I'll be taking a shower or something. I'll be like, okay, like I think this is pretty funny. And then I'll put it online and then it does well. But, it's like I can't do it all the time,
Yeah.
I remember like years ago, like people were like telling me like, oh, you should do this or this. And then if you really try to force something, it just becomes so unfunny as well. Again, like I'm not going to do any name calling, but just like sometimes on like Instagram, you'll like see that people are really, really trying to be funny because that's just kind of something that works in like the DJ world, but they're just like, they're great people, but they're just not very funny people.
Yeah.
And then it just looks so dumb and like
dude,
so
so
try
painful.
hard,
So painful.
And it becomes really cringy. Just in general on like social media and stuff, if you're just yourself, it tends to work well. Like if you're like, either if you're funny or not, like,
yeah, you just go with it either way. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I was thinking while you were talking about, feeling the pressure to, people telling you should stream or you should post videos and all that. And it's the same as anything else. It's what you were talking about earlier when you were talking about making music and like, oh, should I start making music the way these kids are making it now? And the only answer for anything creative like that is, do I want to do it? Do I have something to say? Does it seem like that would be fun to me at the end of the day? Because if it's not, there's no point in doing it. Not that there's no point in trying something new or learning something new, but if you're just doing something you don't enjoy because you feel like you have to, I talk about this all the time. Like, go be an accountant or something, like the reason we're doing this is so we can do what we want to do. I mean, shout out to accountants. I need you guys desperately. Big shout. Yeah. But the streaming thing, it's funny, man. Did you see, I don't know, how much do you follow? Like, are you on Twitter? Are you on social media, like just looking at shit people put up?
Yeah, I'm always watching.
Yeah. Well, you didn't have to say it like that. But no, I saw Lee Must Die post something the other day about people were asking him, oh, will you start streaming? Will you start doing production tutorials? All that. And he was just like, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to do that because I don't want to. And it I think it pissed some people off. Like he got some negative feedback. But I don't know. Everybody's doing the streaming thing now, which makes sense because, either we got to make money or we're trying to promote things or whatever it is. But that doesn't mean we all have to, It's like, it's exactly what you were just saying, I guess, is there has to be forethought in it,
I definitely get Lee's standpoint, he's just like, I don't really want to give away my secrets and stuff, which I totally understand because, if you look, for instance, like this is kind of like dovetailing off of that, but, like Virtual Riot is like a super talented person, but definitely when he gave away all of his, like presets and like samples and stuff, it definitely had like a big effect on the industry. I feel like if, like every great producer starts being like, yo, like this is exactly how I make my shit, you're just kind of taking the entire industry and just squeezing the creativity out of it more and more.
That's
like
an interesting way. Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it because I think there's the opposite argument that could be made that, when Virtual Riot started releasing all of those packs, I think you're right that everyone started using them and everything started sounding the same for a while. But I also think that long term, it maybe upped everybody's game and upped the sonic quality of music.
Yeah, that's actually true too.
Because, then you couldn't be satisfied with like a mediocre snare anymore,
Yeah.
because you just had this easily available sample that sounded better. So anyone who didn't want to just reuse that sample kind of had to step up their game.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
All of that kind of shit, man, to me is less interesting than the person's perspective. Like, of course, we're all nerds and we like to know how we're making what we're making. But at the end of the day, that's maybe 50% of what goes into making a good song at most, to me.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, this is maybe an interesting question. So you're out there in rural Belgium, and are you like sheltering in place, quote unquote? Are you not leaving the house much?
I've been mostly in here, but like every day I just like go on a walk with my mom.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, no, it's super nice. Like the kind of area I live in, it's kind of in between all these fields and cows and like whatever. And I discovered that there's this whole path that just by this big stream, like by the water, and it's super nice. And I've just been walking there like every day. The weather's been really good too. But yeah, that's pretty much like I am slowly going insane, like being in the house all the time. Like,
right.
even if I go outside, because for instance, basically 3 of my best friends that like live in Belgium, like two of them live in the same apartment, and we always meet up in that apartment.
Okay.
And it's only 20 minutes from my house, but like I'm not able to see them because even if I went rogue and I was like, haha, like fuck coronavirus. If I were to take my car and drive there, like they would like, there's like a 7 out of 10 chance they would like pull me over and fine me like $400.
Right. Okay. So they're taking it seriously. So you're pretty locked down.
Yeah.
So then that leads me to the question I was going to ask is, do you think, you in this environment writing music, do you think you're writing differently because of where you are in the situation? Do you think you get inspiration or ideas in a different way, like in that kind of setting, either in Belgium or at your parents' house, anything like that?
I definitely just write better music here because I'm so used to the room, and how it sounds and just this setup. But it's definitely been interesting writing music because first of all, I just had a major writer's block. Just in general for like months on end. And I came back here happened? And was that?
Like before all this happened?
Yeah. And I came back here and just in like the first couple of days, like I think in like 2 days time, I just made this entire like drum and bass song, which is funny because like I'm not very good at producing drum and bass because I never do it, but I'm really pleased with the result. And yeah, I like instantly made like a couple songs, and like once I got that out of the way, like I was kind of hit by a block again, and then I really started thinking like, oh, like I'm pretty much getting blocks because I'm not really progressing in like my sound design. So I started using all these different programs and like really learning, like watching like Indian dudes on like YouTube with really annoying voice talk for like half an hour about like synthesis and stuff. And I've done this for like days on end and just like experimenting with sounds. And now I just feel like I have such a better understanding of how to make music in general. And I'm making all these little demos. And I think the thing that's making everything really interesting is, there's not going to be festivals for a while. So like you don't have to make festival bangers. So,
yes.
I've basically just been making this like super technical shit that like would not work on the dance floor, but is really interesting to make and really fun.
Well, that's great, man. And that's something I've been thinking a lot about too, is that all of a sudden the reason or the immediate purpose of making a song has changed, right? Because like you said, the festivals are gone. I mean, for sure, the summer festival season is done. We don't even know what the fall or the winter is going to look like yet.
Yeah.
Someone else I was talking to was saying that even once everything comes back, people are going to be gun shy about going out. Probably events are just going to be smaller for a while in general, which is going to change the nature of the vibe and the environment and probably what music is going to work. So I think you're right. And I think you hit on it that this is kind of an interesting time to reset, right? Do you think like people's sound is going to change coming out of this, or are we just going to kind of go back to what it was? Because I've been trying to figure this out for a while.
I mean, I think eventually it's going to go back, but like I think what's going to be interesting now from a musical standpoint is, like we like all know there's a bunch of artists out there that are really good at social media. They have a really good team and stuff. They get really big, but their music's actually dog shit. And like we all know this.
Yeah.
And I think what's going to be interesting now, what I kind of predict is that like people are going to hype up people a little bit more for the music again. Because think about it, like there's no festivals. They're like, yes, there's social media, but you can't even take a lot of like cool pictures or whatever because everyone's stuck inside their houses.
Right.
So basically, if you're like an artist, like I feel like right now is the moment to just make like insane music. And I think because of this, like we're going to see a lot of like really cool artists rise up that are just like really fucking good.
I hope so, man. I hope so, because it's so much easier, even just online, through the little communities I'm a part of, whether it's just my Discord or, some post on Reddit. I feel like people really are starting to expand and share more interesting music because we're all consuming it differently now, right?
Yeah.
And like we're just sitting and listening. Maybe we're watching a cool visual with it, but it's not show based and it's not live based, which is such a, no one could have predicted it. But yeah, I hope you're right, man. And I hope it enables like up and coming artists to feel a little more free too.
I like definitely hope this is what happens as well, because just, like I feel like we were coming to the point where like the scene was getting so like saturated and people were getting away with such like insane bullshit that like I think if the scene kind of had like a reset, it'd be nice. But like at the same time, like we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that eventually everything will go back to normal, but it could be, all I'm saying is could be like a year and a half,
Yeah.
Like it could be far off.
I just hope, like, I think the thing I hope the most, like, I hope when all of this is over, there still is a scene. You know what I mean?
I think there will be, man. I think this is actually showing, we were making fun of streaming and all that earlier, but the fact that there has been so much streaming, particularly from electronic musicians and all that, and so much of an audience for it, that to me shows that people really are still hungry for it and there is still a need for it. And just the fact that I think our peer group is adaptable. Like, how much would it suck to be in a touring rock band right now?
Oh my God. Yeah. No.
Like, what are you gonna stream?
Yeah. No. You're absolutely right.
Like, I look at like the what they call it, the Digital Mirage, the like streaming festival that they just did with Brownies and Lemonade and Proximity, and it was all for charity, and that was a really cool thing, man. And I think they said they got some crazy I don't know, $300,000 for charity and millions of people watching. And, that was all put together in a couple weeks. And so to me, that's maybe the positive side of all this is like, oh yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like I didn't mean to like shit on like streaming before. Like I do think it's quite beautiful that everyone's, kind of finding a way to like get everything out.
For you, let's bring it back to you because this is all about you, baby. Was it? I feel like you were poised to have a big summer. I feel like you were on a shitload of festivals and it was about to be crazy. What is it like to have all of that kind of delayed or canceled or who knows?
I mean, it sucks, man. Like it genuinely sucks because you like this kind of felt like the year like, okay, like I'm doing everything right. Everything's getting lined up, like we're going to do all these festivals, going to make an insane set, like going to make some insane new songs with cool people and then going to destroy all these festivals and then do a big tour next year was kind of like the thing. Like, let's say hypothetically, all this shit blows over and like everyone's allowed to travel again by like September. I already have like I think like 4 or 5 festivals and stuff that are all clashing because I like had a bunch of like festivals in Europe in September, like festivals at other times in Europe that like got moved to September because everyone's moving everything to September and October. So there's definitely like if everything would happen, there's definitely going to be like 6 or 7 festivals or shows that I'm not going to be able to do in Europe or in the States. And then besides that, like probably one of the biggest factors for your like career in this scene is timing. And, like for instance, there's people, they have a huge song and they just, they just jump on it with like a really clever management and stuff. And like their careers like become huge or just, I don't know, like I feel like timing is like really, really of the essential. And like this time it kind of felt like we had the timing for everything right because, I like had a couple songs to release like right before all the festivals started.
Right.
So like everyone would play them at the festival. Like that's actually like another interesting thing. Like, like let's say for instance, you like have this crazy festival banger, right? That everyone's gonna play. Like let's say you got that ready now. Like, would you still release it? Because like no one's gonna play it. And
yeah.
It's not gonna get that same buzz. And like sometimes if it's like a more festival-y kind of track, like without that hype, like it's not gonna do that well on platforms and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And you're right. That's a unique thing to our industry, I think, is that, so much of the way the tune gets big is by other DJs playing it or people hearing it at a big festival a bunch of times in a row. I mean, that's what happened with the you and Snake, that song. I mean, it took over the festivals the one year and it just went crazy. Like, I don't know. People are still playing it. I got a remix of that song the other day. It's like people are still making remixes.
I mean, I think everyone's kind of in the same boat. Everyone's just like what the fuck do we do?
Yeah.
I
mean, that's sort of comforting, right? Is that everyone in the entire world is in the same situation, right?
Yeah.
And so it's sort of hard to, at least for me, when I catch myself feeling too bad about my own situation or something that I'm frustrated that coronavirus has fucked up for me personally, I am able on my good days to put it in perspective and just, be like, well, literally everyone else is in the same situation.
Yeah.
There's something comforting too. You tell me if you agree. Something about having to slow down the pace like we are currently doing. There's something about it that's been comforting to me in the sense of like, you don't have a choice. You have to sit here and chill out. And
yeah, I mean, I think if you're, if you're not in like a bad situation or like,
right.
Like especially like financially, I was touring so crazy for a while. and constantly doing stuff and like constantly having phone calls and like whatever, that, you know, like it's kind of nice just like sitting at a home.
Are you drawing? You drawing a lot right now?
I'm about to. I've been working on a lot of music first. I'm about to like work on like a bunch of like visual stuff. I just like the iPad I'm like calling you on, like I just got that like I would say a month ago or something, or like 2 months. And I bought it just to like be able to like draw on it like every day and like have an organized system of keeping everything together.
For people who may not know, or people who have not listened to the first podcast we did here, I think it's worth saying, A, you need to go check out that first episode because it's awesome. But also, you know, you do all of your own artwork. The visual component of what you do is such a huge piece of the overall Eptic project, I think. And that's always been really interesting to me as far as the influence, you know, the way the drawings influence the music or the music influences the drawings. Does one usually come first?
I mean, I usually make the music first. But it doesn't have to be in that order, like necessarily.
Well, I mean, because there's almost like it's not exactly a story, but, you know, there's themes, there's characters that you draw. Do you get the inspiration for that from any kind of specific place or any, you know, is it from like a genre? Is it from like books, or is it just kind of all out of your brain?
I don't know really, man. People always ask me like, what do you take inspiration from? And
Well, yeah, that's like the shittiest question ever. But
and it's I always have a really hard time answering that because I think at some point it all just kind of inspires itself because, you know, like for instance, I'm gonna go way back and I made my little Eptic like robot logo. Like, do you remember that?
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So like, you know, like I think I was like 16 or 17 when I made that, and that was super random. Like I kind of stole it. Like, it's not really that similar, but like, there's this game called Super Meat Boy.
Oh, I love that game. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like my like very first design I made was like a total rip of that. It was like a little robot, and it was like a super big rip off. And then I learned how to work with the program Illustrator, and I made it into like the like little robot that like looks completely different, but like that's essentially what it was, just a rip off of like the like Super Meat Boy character. And then basically throughout time, like every time when I did an EP, I was just like, okay, like how can I like evolve this character? Like what would look cool? What what can I make him do? Like, oh, like what's the name of the track? Like, oh, it's like, you know, oh, the track's called Slime City. Oh, like maybe I can make him like toxic, or like, you know, like just like dumb shit like that.
Right.
But then just like over time, it just kind of kept like developing, and it's basically like every time I do an EP, I kind of look back on this character and I was just like, okay, like what can I do with this? Like what kind of vibe can I give it?
Well, that's cool because then it's almost, you know, sort of an evolving character that grows with you. You know, it's like you've turned it into like an actual character, an actual like being that he changes and evolves, which I think is, you know, that's how a good story is told, right? Is you sort of keep up with someone over time.
Yeah, I think like essentially it's just like taking something and just like keep trying to like perfect it, like taking an idea and like trying to like perfect it more and more and more over time.
Is that your shit? Is that the way you think about it?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of times, even when I make music, like I'll take like an idea for like an old track or something, and I'll just start from there. And I'm like, okay, like what can I do with this? And then it just turns into something like completely different. Yeah, that's actually funny because that's something I've never thought about, but I just came to the realization that that's like something like obsessive I do.
Yeah, you can't let the unfinished idea sit, or it's always like rattling around in your head there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's why I'm like kind of obsessed with like Joyride and stuff as well, because like it feels like such a like completed project, you know? Like I think there's almost a chance that like if I would make, for instance, an album that I'm really satisfied with, I'll just be like, okay, like that's it. Like
Yeah,
Eptic
you just quit.
project is done, and like I'll do something else now.
I kind of like that, man, because that's, if you keep reaching for that goal, which is probably an impossible goal to make the perfect album, but if you keep reaching for that goal, that's how you'll keep getting better and better. It's a cool way to sort of trick your brain into continually evolving,
Yeah.
I like
it's also a good way to trick your brain into just never being happy and satisfied with your life.
Right. Yeah. It's also really good for that.
It's like I've had a lot of conversations with like people where I'm just like, oh fuck, like especially, a couple of months ago when I like really wasn't happy with like stuff. Like I was like talking to people like, oh fuck, like I'm at like such a shit point in like my career. And they'd be like, you're doing your own tour, having like making music that like makes success, and like you did like a track with DJ Snake, and you're doing this and this and this, and like that just like kind of like it kind of put it in perspective to me to like the point where I was like, oh, you know what, I am accomplishing cool things. I'm just kind of a dick about it, and I just can't be happy for myself.
Right. Well, and I have to assume it's probably you can't appreciate it while it's happening, right? And so it's only looking back, because that's I think a pretty common thing in our line of work is you just keep it moving, and that's the way you sort of cope and the way you keep the career and the machine going. But then it makes it hard to like just have those happy moments and to appreciate it while it's happening. And by the way, on a personal note, man, like I feel like in the last couple of years, whenever you and I have met up, you've said something similar to me at various times of like, oh, well, right now this is a really bad time, but it's going to be better. We're working on all this stuff. And then every time you tell me that, but then from an outside observer, I see you progressing and growing and crushing it. And so, that's some more feedback for you, man, that I think you're doing fantastic out there.
Thank you very much, Willy.
And I like your beard, by the way. You got to keep that beard.
Thank you. I've never grown a beard for more than, I think, a week and a half. And, since this happened, I was like, you know what? I don't have to go outside. Like, no one has to see me. Like, I can finally try this out. And I mean, it's not the best beard, but it's definitely better than I thought, because like I didn't think I could grow a beard. And like, this is like this is
good.
Like, yeah, it's a little thin, but
yeah, it just takes time, man. It's your first time. You'll learn. But actually, while you were talking about your own little realization that you just had, you gave me one, which was, I think, the better question. We were talking about, you get asked, and I sort of asked, what's your inspiration for X or for Y? I think the better question is sort of, what do you consume? Like, what is in your life that you follow? Whether it's, do you read books? Do you watch TV shows? Is there a particular genre of music you listen to? Not that maybe necessarily consciously influences your own music, but just what do you like to keep in your life?
I mean, I don't really game a lot. Like, I do watch TV shows and stuff, but like I find myself always just rewatching the same stuff. Like, I think I've seen the US version of The Office like 20 times.
Yeah.
And like I watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, like same thing. Like I've watched that like 20 times. But I mean, when it comes to things of like kind of artistic value, like basically most of the people I follow on like, for instance, like Instagram and stuff, they're all artists that like make illustrations and stuff and animations. When it comes to music, I mean, I don't really listen. Like, for instance, like listening to like I do say like a lot. Listening to Joyride's album is like one of the few EDM-y things I listen to. Like I mostly listen to, I mean, let me pull up my Spotify. Like I listen to a lot of hip hop and basically everything except for like EDM-y stuff. Like
I don't mean to cut you off, but
of course.
It's really funny to me. I think people would be surprised by how many of their favorite artists don't listen to dance music at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I very, very rarely, you know, like sometimes if something's really dope,
right.
I'll do it.
Well, and of course we listen to keep up with what everyone is doing, and we listen to find things to play in our sets. You listen to it with a DJ's ear, but I think listening to music with just sort of an appreciation or just from a fan perspective, I also don't listen to much dance music. It's all other shit.
It's a lot of times when I when I listen to something, like for instance, whenever Space Laces brings out a new track, I'm always so like that guy just has the best production and like the craziest sounds and stuff. So like I'll listen to that just to kind of like figure out like what he's doing, and at the same time I'll just be so compelled by it that I want to listen to it. But apart from that, like same thing, like I listen to what everyone's doing, like basically like every DJ I follow, like whatever song they put out, like I will have heard it, but in my free time I won't listen to it.
So what is on your Spotify there? What have you been listening to?
So I've played the shit out of that new Tame Impala album. I don't know if you heard it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It was so good. And I love Thundercat. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but like
I am. He's awesome, and he's hilarious too.
Dude, like he's so funny.
He's one
like
of those
him and
people.
Zach Fox.
Oh my god, him and Zach Fox together are so good. I was literally watching a video of them a couple nights ago. Yo, do you remember? Actually, I was just thinking about this, which I had totally forgotten when we went and saw Zach Fox in DC.
Oh yeah.
I had totally forgotten that until I knew I was talking to you again. I was like, when was the last time I saw him? And I was like, oh yeah, we actually like went out together.
That's funny. Yeah, it was so much fun. It was a pretty good show.
It was a good show. Yeah, he was doing stand-up, which I feel like he doesn't do a ton of. So we got the kind of the rare like experimental performance.
Yeah, I feel like you could kind of notice it that he wasn't like the typical stand-up guy, because like at one point he was just kind of bullshitting, but I mean it was all funny. I actually remember the opener being like really funny too.
The opener, what? Yeah, I don't remember the opener's name, but they were really funny too. That was a fun night, man. It's got to be weird. Like we miss you out here in the States, man. It was, even though you and I didn't see each other that much, just knowing that you were kind of around DC a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I just like knowing that you were around.
Yeah. No, same. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten that from like a lot of people. Like, I have like a lot of people being like, yo, Mikey, like I miss you. And I was like, you live in a completely different part of the States. Like, I don't see you anyways. Like there's no difference between this, but they're just like, yeah, but just because you're back in Belgium and shit.
Does it feel like, weird to you? Do you feel disconnected from it a little bit?
It does a little bit. I do definitely feel like a little bit more isolated here, like especially just because where I live is kind of in the middle of nowhere too. So just like you're like on a different time zone. You know, like I usually, like I would say around this time, like 10, 11 is like when people start like hitting me up or like calling me and stuff. And I'm, you know, like at this point, like I'm almost ready to go to bed, you know? So it's weird. Like I remember, was it yesterday? Yeah. Yesterday when it was my birthday, like I started getting like all these messages at like 3 a.m. and shit, you know?
Right. Of course.
So it's definitely like a little different.
What'd you do for your birthday?
My parents ordered Chinese food and we just ate Chinese food, and that was pretty much it.
Fuck yeah. when this all started happening, I'm realizing I don't even know. Was there a decision for you about where am I gonna, see this through? Like, did you think about staying in the States?
Oh yeah, no, it was super dramatic. I mean, dramatic, like it was just kind of like extreme because I was sleeping, right? And Agnes actually just came from the States to Belgium because we were gonna spend like 2 weeks in Belgium or something, just like hanging out, and I was gonna show her the city again and blah 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 blah. And we were only here because I just came from New Zealand, which was also like a whole situation, but because I was supposed to fly through Hong Kong, and because of the virus they canceled my flight from New Zealand to Belgium. Well, they like refunded me a day before I got to New Zealand.
Oh,
Imagine
fuck.
having to book a flight from like New Zealand to Belgium like a day before, like a long haul flight. I like ended up paying fucking like, I don't know, like a stupid amount
Yeah, of course.
for the same kind of flight that was way longer. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm not frustrated.
No, you sound fine.
Anyways, like we were in Belgium for I would probably say like 4 days or like 5 days or something. And my manager Clint calls me at like 3 a.m. and he's like, "Yo, like Trump's closing the borders." He's like, "You can," he's like, "I got a flight on standby for you and Agnes, but you have to fly back in 2 days because they're closing the borders like in 2 days." So like I was basically just like I like had a day to think, okay, am I gonna fly back or am I gonna stay in Belgium? But at that point, like I was so happy that I could be at home and write some music, and it was like the first time in like 4 months or something, or like 5 months that I like saw my parents and stuff. So I was like, oh, you know what? They're probably gonna open it up again in like a month. Like I'm gonna stay here eventually. Like I couldn't make up my mind, but like at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Like it's like a global crisis. Like I'm gonna stay here. Then like Agnes flew back, and then like basically like as soon as she flew back, like I kind of realized like, oh fuck, I'm probably gonna be here for like 6 or 7 months at least.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, it was like a tough realization because, for instance, there were so many scenarios. Like I was like, okay, let's say, in like a couple months they like start doing festivals again in the US, but they don't open the borders. So like they don't get any like DJs from like Europe and stuff. Then I'm missing out on everything. But it was like at the same time, like let's say I go over there, like I don't have health insurance over there. And I get sick, oh wow, I'm paying like $28,000 like out of pocket, to like treat this shit.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that you'd be lucky to get off with that bill, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy over here.
Yeah, so there were so many scenarios, and I was thinking as well, like for instance, like I'm like really close like with my grandma, and she lives about 2 minutes from here, and I was like, what if I go to the States and I can't come back, and she like fucking dies or something, like then I'm not even able to like fly back to like go to like the funeral. Like how shitty would that be? So like eventually I just decided like, you know what, I'm gonna stay here. Agnes went back, and that's kind of like when everything started like popping off everywhere.
Yeah, that must have been hard, man. I mean, not only just having a day to decide, but then having to put Agnes back on the flight and not knowing how long. Because this shit changes every day. That must have been hard.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was like weird because like we were supposed to fly back like together. So like it was really weird to like put her like on the flight like by herself. I'm kind of like, not because of that reason, but like I am kind of happy I'm here for practical reasons, just because I do have a studio here. I'm at my parents' place, so like I don't really have to pay anything. So like financially I'm good because I'm pretty much, like I'm still making money from streaming, which is like pretty good. Like I'm pretty lucky that I have good streaming numbers. But I mean, apart from that, I'm not selling merch. Like I'm not really doing anything. So like apart from that, there's not really any money coming in.
Right.
So it's kind of nice not having to like pay rent or just like spending a shit ton of money or like having to pay doctor's bills or whatever. So like when it comes to that, I'm like pretty lucky. Like I was actually thinking, like, imagine being a like smaller producer right now, right? And you're like, you just moved to LA and you're paying like two, 3,000 a month to pay your apartment. And all of a sudden you can't play shows anymore. Like that shit's disastrous, man. Like you just like, I don't know, like, are you out on the street? Like what happens?
It's tough, man. I mean, there's, they're trying to pass these stimulus bills in the States that will help out. And there's provisions in them to help out even people like us, self-employed, independent contractors, all that kind of thing. But that relief, it isn't here yet. And it's sort of unclear how long it's going to take to be able to get that relief. And yeah, for people who are, quote unquote, starving artists, sometimes you can't wait. And I hear you, man. I feel very lucky too that I'm in the situation I'm in. Earlier when I was talking about how there's like a comforting aspect of this, I'm sure there's a lot of people who that just makes me sound like an asshole too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm in a super privileged position to just like, I'm stressed out. I'm super anxious, but I'm okay for now. I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, man, there's so many people. It's like, I was talking to my manager about this. It's like, how do you even know when to release music? It's hard to even know sort of what the purpose of what you're doing is right now, like what you're working towards.
It's not easy. I mean, I've been contemplating that too for like a long time, for like people like myself and stuff. Like, it's just the ideal moment to just like get a lot of music finished. Like if you're in the position to like do it, like, I think that's something to take advantage of because it's not going to come around anymore.
That's absolutely right.
I mean, not that I ever wanted to come around anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But you're absolutely right. We're living through globally with everyone else on the world. We're living through one of the craziest times that probably any of us, fingers crossed, lives through in our lifetime. And you're absolutely right that, I think this time should be treated in a different way from the way we usually just kind of go through all of our mundane lives. Man, it's been a minute. Oh, you know what we should talk about real quick before we get out of here, because I think people would want to hear about it. We started off talking about the DJ Snake collab and how that kind of really kicked off what has been like a crazy couple of years for you. But then more recently, there was the Dillon Francis collab. And I feel like that was another big moment that probably exposed you to a lot of new people. And that was with Monster Cat again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Who you've been working a lot with. So talk about working with Dillon, talk about Monster Cat. Like, how did all that come together?
I mean, the thing with Dillon was, I think we probably had that song in the works for about 2 years or something. Like, we made it in LA. I just feel like I've harassed Dillon Francis into doing that collab because he hit me up. Like, don't quote me on this, but like, I would say about like 2 years ago or something. And he was like, yo, like, let's make a song. And then finally, I was in LA for a week and I was like, yo, I'm in LA. Can we work on the song? And he was like, yeah. And he was being like every time we would text, he would answer. And then he would either be super vague or like not text back anymore. And then eventually it was one of the last days I was in LA. And I was just like, look, man, like, I'm getting sick of this. Like, I'm coming to your house right now. And he was just like,
You've told me this. I love this story.
Yeah. And he was just kind of like, okay, like this is my my address. And I went over and we like worked on the song and it was pretty cool. And I was like, okay, like this is sick. And then I think it was actually his 30th birthday that day. So then I left because he was going to go party out with some friends. And I went back to my hotel and like worked on it some more. And then, like he hit me up, like I hit him up, and it just like nothing ever happened. And then like, yeah, I would say like 1 or 2 years later, I was listening to it again and I was working on my EP and I was listening to the demo and I was like, this is sick. Like, why are we not doing anything with it? And then I hit him up again. And he was like, yeah, we should totally do something with it. And then you know, it just went back to same old, same old. And then finally, like, I went on Twitter and I was just like, yo, like, I forgot what I said, but I was like, tell Dillon Francis to like get back to me so we can like finish this shit. And he was basically just getting harassed for like a couple of days, and then like we finally finished the song.
I love that method of working with somebody, man. You have to actually like crowdsource a mob to make them finish the song.
Well, I feel like he's kind of the same as me. He's a really, really nice guy. But like we both have a really short attention span.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it's ill-intended at all, but like I think he's just like, okay, yeah, like let's do this. And then like he's like, oh, but like I'm gonna work on a show, or like I'm gonna work on this thing for Instagram, or like work on this other song or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And
so
like I see a squirrel over there.
Yeah. So like yeah, I just really had to be like, yo, like let's work on this now.
And to be honest, man, I actually like it when people do that, because it's something we can all relate to. Like I have plenty of friends, and you're probably one of them, that I don't expect them to always text me back. And, you know, I don't expect every single thing we talk about is going to get a follow-up, just because we're all kind of busy doing our own shit. And I'm the same way. I am that way to other people. And so when other people chase me down, sometimes I really appreciate it, because if I say I want to do something, that means I want to do it. And sometimes I just need someone else to kind of give me that external push.
Yeah, I feel that.
Fuck, man. It's great to talk to you, man. Anything else on your mind? Anything else? Is your day-to-day just kind of like wake up, work on music, hang out with the folks?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. It's actually like the reason why I started going for those walks and stuff was after about 2 weeks, you know, of like constantly making music and whatever, I try to work out. And you know, like I used to work out quite a lot, and there's all this stuff I was very used to. And, you know, like for instance, I used to do push-ups with this like weighted jacket with like all the weights in it. And, you know, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and do this. And like I was about 3 push-ups in, and I was like, wow, like my arms are just not taking this beating. And I just had to dial back everything. And then like the next day, you know, like just from doing push-ups, like my entire body was sore, and I was like, okay, like this isn't normal. Like I'm just not moving anymore. And I was like walking up the stairs and like getting tired and stuff. So yeah, I've just been trying to keep, you know, like keep everything moving. And like I like made this little like workout room over there. Yeah, I'm just gonna try and not get fat, because these first couple of weeks, man, like I like it's already gone down, but like for the first time in my life, I was like, oh fuck, like I became fat.
You're just eating all that rich Belgian food.
Pretty much, yeah.
What's the dish? What's like the dish Belgium is known for, other than the fucking waffles and shit?
Like people ask me this question a lot, and like I don't really know.
I mean,
like,
what do you eat? Like, what did you eat as a kid? What's like comfort food?
Just in general, we just eat a lot of potatoes over here.
Nice.
And I've never realized how much potatoes we eat over here till I started traveling a lot. I was like, oh, you guys don't eat potatoes with like every dish. And it's not like, I don't mean specifically one kind of potato. It's, you know, it's like fried potatoes or mashed potatoes or like whatever. But like we pretty much eat potatoes with everything here all the time.
That's really funny. I would not have guessed that would be.
Yeah. And I mean, apart from that, like just like a famous kind of like snack here is like the Belgian fries.
Right.
That's kind of something everyone over here eats. And it's like actually something I genuinely miss whenever I'm over in the States. I remember one time I craved it so bad that I started looking if like any Belgian people did it in the States, and like found someone in like Oklahoma or something that did it. I mean, I've never been.
Have you ever been to the restaurant called Marvin in DC?
No.
Oh, dude, when you get back, when they let you come back here, you got to check it out because it's one of my favorite spots. So it's named Marvin after Marvin Gaye because he spent the last years of his life in Belgium, which I don't think a lot of people know.
Oh wow, no,
And
I had no idea.
yeah, there's a whole story behind it. It's really interesting. I'll probably fuck it up if I try to say it now. But yeah, I think he died in Belgium and he was living there. And so it's basically like half soul food and half Belgian food.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's really good, man. It's right up on U Street, like right by where U Street Music Hall is.
Yeah, I need to check that out. I've also realized that there's some vegetables that you guys don't really eat a lot over in the States. Like there's this, like I want to look up the name. Okay. There's this vegetable called. Okay, do you know what kohlrabi is?
Oh, that's like some kind of squash, right? Or like
It's really weird looking. Like it just looks like a really fat, like round root.
yeah.
The way I found out about this vegetable was I was eating over at my ex-girlfriend's house for the first time, right? And I don't give a fuck. We don't get along anymore. I was eating there for the first time, and her mom was cooking us food, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you have a guest coming over, I mean, I don't know if everyone's like the same way, but like, for instance, like, if my mom knows that like one of my friends coming over or something, like, she'll make like, I don't know, like spaghetti or something, or like or like something that pretty much like any person would like, Anyways, I like get the dish, and she like made this vegetable like kohlrabi, and she basically cooked it until it was like a mush, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing, like no seasoning, like nothing, like just this vegetable. And then she like cooked these prawns that were still like half raw, like they were not cooked properly at all. She mixed it in with the kohlrabi, and then she made this pasta, which also wasn't cooked enough. So it was like it was like still really like really tough. And
So were you just sitting there like having to pretend to enjoy it all?
Yeah, so like I like got it, and I'm pretty bad with vegetables. Like it's gotten a lot better touring because like I used to be one of those like really picky eaters, but then because I was touring so much, like if you're like, let's say I like travel to like Hungary or something, and the promoters take you out for food. Especially when I first started DJing, like when they gave me food, like I wasn't gonna say like, oh, like I don't like this. Like I just ate it, and because of that, I learned to eat a lot of new things, which is nice. But anyways, back to the story. Like I'm not the best with all kinds of vegetables, and like basically I took a bite and I started like gagging because I was thinking like how bad can it be,
Right.
And I start eating it and I start gagging, and like it wasn't anything I could help. Like I really tried not to do it because I'm not always the best in like these kind of like social situations, but like this was really, really bad. And like every time I took a bite, I like kind of had to just like try and not throw up. And
Oh man.
at one point, like her mom just like looked at me and she was like, "Oh, like you don't like it?" And I was like, no, like I do. And like my ex was like, "You don't have to eat it if you don't like it." And she was like,
Oh,
"Mom,
God.
like look, like he doesn't like it. And she just left the table, man. And it was so awkward. It was so bad.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I felt so bad. And I think the worst thing was because I was gagging, like after dinner, like I couldn't even really go like, "Oh, it was really good," like lie about it. Like I couldn't even do that because then I just sounded like a massive like backstabber. So I'm not a big fan of kohlrabi, but I went to the supermarket and I saw Belgian kohlrabi. So I was like, oh wait, like maybe this is something that's not very commonly used here.
And you were saying you're not always good in those kind of situations. Did you used to be like kind of a socially awkward kid?
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have picked that for you because I feel like ever since I've known you, you can kind of just talk to anybody. You're a very open person.
I can put it this way, like if the other person is easy to talk to and stuff, like I'm very open and whatever, but like I've actually noticed this very heavily in meet and greets. Whenever I do a meet and greet, if the fans are like really easy to talk to or like super cool or whatever, it becomes really fun. And I'm just like blabbering for like half an hour, and like they just like usually end up staying in like the backstage for like ages, and we're just talking. But then there's also those like meet and greets where like I remember a couple of years back, I'm still slightly upset with them. I think it was like I know for a fact Lax was on that tour. I think it was Lax and Must Die on that tour with me.
That's a great group of people right there.
Yeah, and we did a meet and greet, and Lee Must Die was like everyone came, and he talked for like 2 minutes, and then he just left. He was like, I need to go to the bathroom. I was like, okay. And then Jamie Lax, like, I don't remember what he did, but he just left. Like, so I was like in this backstage with like 10 people, and every single one of them was like really fucking awkward. And I remember just like, there was no one else there. And I basically have like, for when it's really awkward, like I kind of have this like list of things I'll go down of like, oh, like, where are you from? Like, did you enjoy the show? Like this and this and this. To kind of not make it too awkward for them and to like keep them talking and stuff. But like, that's like a list of like 10 things. And I went through that in like a minute. And then everyone was just like standing there. And I was just like, okay, like, what do you guys want to do? Like, he's just kind of staring at me now. And like in those situations, like I get really awkward. I like start stuttering. Like once I start stuttering, like I feel more awkward. And then, you know.
And then it just builds. And then like, you remember it 2 years later.
Yeah. But definitely when I was a kid, like I was really shy. I didn't really talk. Like I didn't talk on the mic for like a couple of years too.
Do you think it's touring and getting out there and seeing the world and meeting new people that kind of forced you to break out of it?
Yeah. Because for instance, the first shows I played in Europe, I would get into the backstage and like I just like wouldn't really talk to anyone just because I was really, really shy. And then at one point, like I was already doing it for like a couple of months. I was like, well, I can either be in this like really fucking awkward situation like every time I play, or I can try and like make a conversation with people. And then every show I played, I just tried talking to like everyone in the backstage just to like kind of force myself to be like a little social. And it definitely has changed me a lot over the years to do that.
That's cool, man. To me, that almost sounds similar to the same way you were talking about how you sort of perfect an idea over time, or, just have this one thing you work on sort of over years.
Yeah.
And you're, still on the path to whatever perfection in that looks like.
Yeah, I'm like pretty happy now. Like, I'm really grateful I did this just because like, I think it like, I'm really happy how it's like, the like view I have of the world now traveling so much, and just that I'm not shy little bitch anymore.
You would have just stayed a shy little bitch your whole life.
Just a shy, weird little bitch.
When I think of Mikey, really the words that come to mind are shy little bitch. Well, fuck, it feels kind of fucked up to end it on that note, but it's good to talk to you, dude. It's good to see your precious little face.
Yeah, dude, same thing. One of these days after this podcast, we should just FaceTime and talk about stuff that no one else can know about.
Eptic's been on this show before. Go check out the last episode he was on. We went through the whole life story, the backstory, amazing shit. Look at him now. How can you resist?
Oof.
All right, man. This has been great.
Okay, cool. I'll let you go, man.
All right, dude. Good talking to you.
Pain in my heart.
I love you, buddy.
All right.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
dude.
All right, that's the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Whatever platform you're on, it's good to be with you. And don't forget, you need to keep up with Eptic. There's a link where you can go follow him as well. Keep up with me at Willy Joy or at Back to Back Pod on all social media. And that is it for this week. Much love to our sponsors, much love to Serato, and much love to you, the listener. I hope you guys are doing well out there. Stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you next week. For Back to Back, this is Willy Joy. Peace.